Okay, our last panelist for this evening is Mel. And so the three things that you should know about Mel is, the first one is that as far as I know, so far in the world, she's the person to run the biggest customer experience deck and emotional culture deck hybrid project ever, which blows my mind because I designed them as separate tools, but she's figured out a way to merge these things, mash them together. And I don't know of anybody else in the world who's done as big a project as the project that Mel has designed and then taken her organization through. And the second one is she works for BurgerFuel, and I love that our first meeting, I guess, not face-to-face connection, but meeting was at a BurgerFuel naturally. And I got a feel firsthand for the work that she'd been doing with the franchises, and that just blew me away. And the third thing you should know is that my philosophy is to think big but act small. And in an amazing way, my understanding of Mel so far is that she thinks big and acts big as well. And that is unbelievably inspiring. And I'm really excited that she's going to share what she's been up to with these games, because it's, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope it's okay, but I'm going to stand. I don't know, it's hard to perch up here a little bit. So I'm one of those people that's 12 minutes isn't that long, so I hope I can stick to some time frames and share at least enough of what I'd hope to share with you guys today. So a few people tonight have asked me what's my background, and I don't want to spend too long on that, but it's weird and it's varied and it's not HR, and it's 16 years at BP doing so many different jobs, including working in a lubricants blend plant. Yeah. There's a lot of jokes you can pull about that one. And finance roles, I'm not a finance person. So maybe you're right with the think big, act big. I don't know, I've never thought about it like that. So I did 16 years at BP, and then I left there and went to BurgerFuel. And my very first project there was online ordering, so IT project. Lots of fun. Then I did some other IT projects, and then I did some customer experience and some leadership training, and just all over the show. So I don't fit in a box, but that's fantastic and I love it. Left and went to Foodies for 3 years, Foodstuffs, New World's Pack and Saves, SAP training manager, and looked after people who trained, and then leadership programs manager for them. And then, in a beautiful synchronistic way, left there and was invited back to BurgerFuel to work on customer experience. So that was, I started there on the 2nd of March last year. So right before it all turned to custard, and I was lucky enough that they were committed to the program enough that they wanted to carry on and continue my contract and the journey with customer experience. So that was pretty awesome. So they're a very committed company to this kind of stuff. Very lucky as well that I came into a business that I already knew and I was already well trusted. So I'll just start with that because that was pretty cool. It gave me free rein. So that's a really important part of the story. So COVID struck. I sat there and panicked that they might cancel my contract for a little while, and then they went, don't be stupid. No, we're all good. Carry on. I was like, okay. And in fact, COVID made it even more important to continue on with customer experience, because the one thing that was going to differentiate us from everybody else was our customer experience. And let's face it, they're a pricey burger. So if you want a good burger, you expect some really good experience along with it. So we were like, right, post-COVID, it has to happen. This has got to be what we do. My beautiful friend Nat had been along to one of Jeremy's masterclasses, and she contacted me and said, I've got this tool and you are going to love it. So as soon as we were allowed to get together after the lockdown, she came and showed me, and I was like, this is amazing. I can't wait to make this a part of what I'm planning. So much like everybody else, it's not a case of you can explain it to the bosses. You kind of have to show them, so that's what I did. Bearing in mind, not attended a masterclass and had 45 minutes with Nat showing me how it works. Get online, have a look at them all. So anyway, my boss was like, yeah, cool, we can do this. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. So I designed a program. They wanted customer service, and I quickly changed the wording to customer experience, because to me, I didn't want to roll in there and do 7 steps of customer service and stick a little laminate to every till and make it really robotic, because that's A, not the brand, but it's also not what we want for our customers. So we changed it to customer experience, and there's a Simon Sinek quote that we use throughout all of our workshops, which is 50% of a customer's experience is subconscious or how they feel. And so that's the premise that we based it all on, is how they feel. Welcome to Jeremy's cards. So that tied in really well. So how I started was I thought, right, I didn't know any better. And I think that's where what you were saying comes in. I just didn't know any better. And I'm super glad I didn't know any better, because I probably wouldn't have gone as large. But I was like, right, we're going to use the ECD and we're going to use the customer experience, and it's a one-day workshop because that's all I was allowed. And who can I have in it? I want everybody, 900 staff all around New Zealand. That's what I want. So they did tone me back to just leadership. So we had about 300 people we were working with. But we did go around the country, and I did get to use both card decks, and I did jam it all into one day. So I don't know how we did it, but we did it. They're exhausted at the end of the day. And I trialled it with our head office team first. So this is probably the key part. I'm a perfectionist, and I didn't realise I was, but it's only in certain areas. So when I'm confident that something's going to work, I'm happy to give it a try. So I rolled it out. I was like, you guys, a day workshop, we're going to be great. This is going to happen. And at the end of the first day, we'd gotten just to the end of customer. So we hadn't got even to people. I'll come back to people. So I had to get them ready for a whole another half a day session that we weren't planning on, but they all loved it so much. They were super happy to come back and do it and give feedback. So this is the part that I thought was really cool. I had broken the program up into 3 sections. So one was self. So for those of you familiar with the tools and the products, the Know Yourself handbook is effectively what we used. So I really wanted to get them to have a think about who they were and what was important to them as leaders, because how often do leaders get a chance to just stop and reflect on themselves and who they are and what they need? It was also a little bit sneaky of me, because I knew if we did that first, it would connect people with their feelings. So as we rolled through to customer and people, it was really easy to keep connecting them and transferring that through. So sometimes we come across some people who maybe don't have natural empathy, and they're the people that go, oh, I don't know how my people feel. But when they figure out how they feel, it's really easy to go, well, if you feel like that, and everybody in the room that we've just shared with feels those or different things, then of course customers do, and the rest of our people do. So it was a really easy transition. After the first, point 2 was then we did customer. So that's the premise of what we were rolling out. So the second part was customer. I'll come back to that. And then the third part was people, because you can't expect our people to deliver an amazing customer experience if they're not happy and they're not engaged and they don't like coming to work. And our audience is predominantly 17 to 25-year-olds who may be part-time while they're doing something else that they really want to do, studying at university. So we do have lifers, which is great. We have people who want to be there and make a career out of it, but we've got a lot of people who work part-time. So how do we get these people engaged? So that was the 3-pronged attach that we were making. So after the first trial workshop, everyone was like, it was really great, but you should cut that self piece. Just cut that out, because that's taking up some time. And I went, I'm not doing it. I'm not cutting it out. We'll trim other places. But I remained adamant that I didn't want to take it out. And I got some feedback after that very first session. So one of the guys that works for me, or with us in head office, said, I know everyone else is saying you should take that out, but I just want to share a story with you. We sat in that room, and I suffer from anxiety. And I've been doing a lot of work on myself around anxiety and trying to figure out what's going on. And when we did that one exercise, everything that I have been working on all came together in that one moment. And that was the most powerful experience. And please, if one person other than me gets that, don't take it out. I was like, yes. Yes, I'm leaving it in. So we left that in, and that was true all the way around the country with people of all different ages. People had their little aha moments, and it was spectacular. So one of my favourite parts. I'm super glad I trusted my gut and left that in. Customer. So some of you talked to me earlier and said, what is the customer deck and how does that even work? So I did bring one along just to show you. And it's a little different in that it's one set of emotion cards with 3 cards that say feel this, don't feel this, and don't apply. So you kind of work your way through the card deck and split it up into those 3 things based on who your customers are. And the beauty of that is, as I explained to people when they said, what does frisky mean? Of all the cards, Jeremy, that people talked about every time was, what does frisky mean? And I'm like, how do you explain that to somebody? So I came up with a PC way, which was, imagine a field with lambs, newborn lambs, jumping around, being frisky. And then somebody inevitably would say, or, and give a different definition. Then they would say, why is that card in there? I said, well, different businesses might have different customers with different needs. I'll leave it up to your imagination. So, but this was really beautiful in that we started with the emotional culture deck for us, the self piece, and then we moved on to the customer experience deck, which gave us a really lovely transition between the two. So I'm really glad we did use that. And then we moved on in the afternoon to people, and we talked about what we wanted our people experience to be. So the way we did it was customer experience and people experience. So one of the best pieces of feedback we got was every store, so we've got 58 BurgerFuel stores in New Zealand, and every store got to design their own customer experience and their own people experience for their store. So we would sometimes have multiple stores in one session, but they all got to create their own. And for us, that was super important. We're a brand that's kind of based on being unique and different and people being authentic when they come to work. And let's face it, the Takapuna store in Auckland might have a different vibe than Invercargill or Taupo or Manukau for that matter. So we wanted them all to have that experience. The biggest piece of feedback was how much they loved that they got to create their own and that head office wasn't telling us what we had to do. And so that was beautiful, and they bought in. I must say, out of everything, that was the one thing that got everyone to buy in a whole lot more. And because we were only doing it with the leaders, they went back to stores, and if anyone was a bit like, oh, why are we doing this? Head office has told us to do this. They'd actually, we created this. We spent a day creating this for us, for our people. And if they were still resistant, which most weren't, they'd say, well, what on here don't you want to feel? Like if we're looking at our people experience, do you not want to feel appreciated? Very hard for somebody to not buy in at that point. And that wasn't us telling them to do that. That was them coming up with that themselves. So mass buy-in throughout all the stores. Don't know how I'm going for time. Action bias was a real thing that I wanted to work on. All good to roll out a workshop, but then what? And so one of the things that we did was embed it into our systems. So we have, because it's hospitality, we have pre-shift meetings. So we created a poster, and you referenced posters and values posters. I did the same thing. I was like, we don't think a poster is going to fix this, just to be clear, but the poster is a point that you can anchor to and reiterate and remind. So they had their words on the poster, they had behaviours on their poster, what we were trying to achieve and why. And then the pre-shift meetings were, what do we want our customers to feel today? And they'd pick a word, and then the staff have to say what they're going to do in their role today to make the customers feel that way. So as an example, just about every store said welcome, which you'd hope they would. They want the customers to feel welcome. And so if I'm working front of house, how am I going to make sure a customer feels welcome today? Equally, customer experience isn't just the person talking to the customer. So if I'm out the back making the burgers, how am I going to make a customer feel welcome today? And we made everyone responsible for the experience. So that was really cool. So that's an embedded tool that we have. We also went one up. They have weekly shift manager meetings. So we made sure that they were all customer and people focused and divided up. So that's an embedded process we already had. And audits. So we're a business that has to do compliance and audits. So we also tied it in there, which was awesome. So it's tied into all the things that we do. In terms of results, because that's always what businesses want to know too, and this is, how do you measure customer experience or people experience? And we were really lucky that we have a way to measure customer reviews as a really good way of defining how we've gone, and we could see measurable increase immediately as we were rolling out the workshops. Our customer reviews and ratings were going up and continue to go up. So, yay, that worked. That was amazing. All 58 stores roughly had the same themes. So welcome, important, and comfortable were the three words that came up the most for our stores, how they wanted their customers to feel. So with no bias from us, they all wanted the same thing. So that was pretty interesting and pretty cool. And appreciated and supported were the two biggest words that came out for how they wanted their people to feel. So it was pretty cool. We now have a thing which is #appreciated, and it goes everywhere all the time. And I think I mentioned this at the beginning, but I'm really glad I didn't know any better. So that was a lesson for me, is if I maybe had, I'm a bit backwards in the way this has come about because I didn't go to a workshop with Jeremy. I just went for it. But if I'd have known better, I probably wouldn't have done it all in one day. But I'm super glad I did, because then it happened and it all rolled out. So that's probably my biggest lesson. And just a tiny bit about what we're doing from here, because sometimes businesses roll something out and then it's done. Thanks very much, you can go now. They have seen a need to continue embedding, which is really awesome. So they are now doing things like, yesterday we had our very first, excuse my language, but we had our very first head office masterclass for our good bastards. So for those of you who know BurgerFuel, we have a bastard burger. So in terms of appreciating our people and supporting our people, it's peer nominations, and so they nominate the good bastards, and then they go in a draw and they get a full paid day at head office in our test kitchen with all the taste buds of the company and doing really fun stuff, as well as some drinks and whatnot afterwards and a bit of a good party. So we had our first one yesterday, and that was all about appreciation, and that ties in. So there's all these really cool things that they want to keep doing, and they've employed a person specifically to now carry that on, so that I can go and do some other things for them. But yeah, so I think that's me. I think I've said everything I was going to say, but yeah, awesome, thank you.
There's stuff in there that I hadn't, even in our catch-up, I didn't even know about. So it's expanding my horizons as well. And for me, it warms my heart on a whole bunch of levels, but especially because you didn't have any expectation of what was supposed to happen from me or from anybody else apart from your 45-minute discussion. And that's the coolest thing for me, because I actually even didn't plan to teach people how to use the game. With my anxiety, I decided that I wanted to build a game so I didn't have to talk to people and people could play the game, right? It just turned out that people wanted to learn from me how to use it, but having an amateur mindset or a beginner's mindset and taking a lens that's unencumbered by any other bias or experience, I think is really, really powerful, and it just proves that you don't necessarily have to come along to a masterclass to do this course, to play with this game, and I love that. I've hopefully designed it so that can happen. So since then, yeah, retrospectively, yeah. So yeah, if you are telling yourself you need confidence to learn from somebody else, sometimes you don't. You can just dive in and think big and play. Yeah.